Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to another episode of the Scho Bro Show. This is the Steel Curtain Network's Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night. It's really just after 9 o'clock. We're almost on time. And with me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going tonight?
It goes, brother Dave.
Yeah, you know what? I'm having some interesting things. The music doesn't work right for me anymore. It seems like maybe because I have 47 tabs open on my computer, but it was just chugging along, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just cut off. I'm like, I must have been a couple seconds behind. So, but we're here. You know, I don't know if that's a technical difficulty or not, but I'm excited to be here, talk with my bro, hang out with people in the live chat, and just kind of take in everything Steelers. And this is kind of a special take it all win show. There's going to be a different show than what we normally do. I know last week we got back to doing a top five. We're going to get into more of those. And as I said, if you all have some suggestions of some things that we should do, like we did last week when we talked about the top five biggest surprises of the Steelers offseason so far, then if you have any other suggestions for us, hey, make sure you reach out. Both of our Twitter handles are here on the screen if you're with us either on YouTube or Facebook or even Twitter. Or you can reach out to us at behindthesteelcurtain.com. Yes, that website still exists. But tonight we're going to take a little bit of a different approach to things. But before we do, I do want to say that today was day one of mandatory minicamp. Rich, did you check in and listen to anything or hear anything or see anything of what was going on?
No, not really.
Yeah, I heard part of Coach Tomlin's speak. I read every word that he did because I already have an article ready for that for in the morning at behindthesteelcurtain.com. Yes, that website still exists. I'll continue to say that. And yeah, just some very interesting things. Couple players missing, but no surprises. Everyone that wasn't there, it was known. No TJ Watts, no Ryan McCullum, who is I think, third string center. And there was no Presley Harvin III. They all had excused absences. Other than that, Steelers were there. We're going. You don't get quite the reporting there that you get with training camp. You don't know what happened with 7 shots. Yeah, they still do it, but we don't know. But it seems like they're really getting some work in. And the biggest thing is no report of any injuries yet. Don't you think that's pretty much the most important thing?
Sure is. Let's see. Who was I reading? Who was there without a helmet today, though?
Without a helmet, I think there was, I don't know if it was for the whole time or what, but there was some pictures where there was no helmet for Pat Freiermuth or George Pickens.
Yeah, that's who it was.
I think was 2 of them. But yeah, and I mean, no one's really saying how much, what are they doing with Alex Highsmith and blah, blah, blah contract. I'm like, people were taking too much into that, thinking that the contract thing is going to really hold up stuff. I don't think it is. But that's kind of the report of stuff going on with the Steelers. There's just some various things and some videos and things of that nature. I will tell you, if you really want to get a full recap of what happened in day one of mandatory minicamp, go to behindthesteelcurtain.com tomorrow morning, and Jeff Hartman will have an article that sums up everything for you. He did it for all the other OTAs, and it's really going to be there and ready to go. So, Rich, the next time we talk next week, it's going to be, oh man, there's no more Steelers stuff until training camp.
But that also means we're that much closer to training camp.
We're that much closer. Yeah, and last week, we got the what day was that? Thursday, I think it was.
Thursday.
Because my days are all mixed up. I've been on two mini vacations over the last 10 days, so I'm still trying to get my bearings straight. But yes, it was last Thursday. I did the article of all the training camp dates are out. Make sure you see what those are if you're going to try to attend. They didn't say yet, but I assume it's going to be like last year where you actually had to get a ticket. It's not that it cost anything.
Oh, you
but
actually
you gotta get a ticket.
Yeah, that's going to be my guess as well, that they're going to stick with that. It was, but maybe not, because part of that last year was they were trying out that new system that they use at the stadium.
Yeah, tell us about that a little bit.
That they were using that to go to, so the new system in terms of security, where basically you just walk through, you don't even have to wait and go through a specific scanner. You're just walking through, and if you pick up, they pull you aside. They were using that at Latrobe last year, the day we went. So, then I saw it. They had it in at least the gate we go in at Acrisure.
Gate B?
Yeah. They were
which is the one closest to the parking garage, but not closest to the river. Yeah.
A small section of it early in the year when I was there, but by the end of the year, the majority of it was that. So, I don't know if they were doing the tickets just for that reason. If they're going to do it again, I don't care, because it doesn't cost anything. You just got to get the ticket, throw it on your phone, boom, done. Piece of cake. Also gives them a better idea of how many folks they have attending. Allows them to plan for parking a little better. So,
because that's what took the longest time, right? It's being in line for parking and everything. Depending on what time.
Yeah, and even it wasn't that bad.
Gotcha. Yeah, I want to really try to get up there this year. Like I said, I'm gonna harp on one Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman about going on up there. But this was our kind of little intro covering some of the news, because there was other news that we would have talked about otherwise. But instead, we decided to make it part of the show, and pretty much what the show is that we're talking about. This is our show leading up to Father's Day, and a lot of people, this is our family show. I'm even wearing my family shirt, my Steelers family. That Father's Day kicks in a little bit with this. Honestly, if one Brian Anthony Davis would have been around tonight, he might have even joined us on this show. He's got a lot of things he loves to talk about with his Steelers fandom in regards to his dad. So we're going to hit on that a little bit. But part of it's going to be reminiscing about our childhood, you and I. We're going to kick back. We're going to reminisce on some things, because we lost a part of that this week. We did. And that was with the passing of the Godfather, Stan Savran. Stan loved the show. We know that he had been battling. I'm pretty sure it was a certain form of cancer, and was not in the best of health, but kept on going. Anytime he could keep doing any of the shows or any of the things that he normally did, he kept going until there was no more go left in him. So to me, we're going to talk about, got to give a shout out to Stan. Never met him. I'm trying to think if I ever spoke to him. I might have, back when, before my SCN and BTSC days, when I would call in to the Steelers post-game show. That I know I spoke with Charlie Batch. I used to, talk to, occasionally call in and talk to Tunch and Wolf in their locker room show before I was with BTSC. But I'm trying to remember specifically if I ever spoke with Stan and Charlie. I just can't remember. I'm pretty sure I did.
I thought you were on the one time driving home from that late game.
That wasn't them, because it was a late preseason game, and Stan and Charlie were like, "Nope." That one was Tim Benz and someone else. Might have been Adam Crowley, someone else. They were filling in for that one. And yeah, that was one where I actually talked to them, and they were so impressed with what I had to say. I came home and wrote it as an article that I submitted to Behind the Steel Curtain. That was my first ever article that ran on September 1st of 2018. But yeah, it seems like things change so much. And there's players and there's coaches that shape your fandom. But there's also the best way to say it is like Steelers voices that also shape a lot of your memories. And Stan was one of those. Myron Cope was one of those. We still have with us Bill Hillgrove is one of those. And anything you want to say before I really get into quizzing you about some things?
Well, see, you probably don't remember. I do. I remember when Stan Savran started on WTAE, because that was what we watched for news.
Yes, that's what I was going to get into. So I'm glad you're getting into it. I wanted to break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was. I remember when he started. Yeah. You probably always remembered it. You always probably thought of it as he has always been there. But I remember when he started.
I honestly don't remember specifically when he started, but I remember that he was a newer guy. To me, it was Bill Hillgrove and Stan Savran.
Yes.
Were the two sports guys. And then you got commentary. This is Myron Cope on sports. That's what you got.
Wait a minute. You forgot the next part. See, I can't ever think of this is Myron Cope on sports. The next line was always Bill Hillgrove saying, "Thank you, Myron."
Yep. But this was back when we were kids. Now, let's paint a little bit of a picture. All right. We grew up in what I like to call the Pittsburgh sphere of influence. And that's because our radio and our TV were out of Pittsburgh. We didn't have cable. We didn't have satellite. We had 4 TV stations. When I was little, it was 4. And then it expanded kind of to 5, but you had to turn the antenna, so we kind of ignored the 1. And that was the 4 when I was little, which you had Channel 2, KDKA. You had Channel 4, WTAE. You had Channel 6. I can't remember the call letters. It was NBC out of Johnstown.
WJAC.
JAC. Okay, that's right. Out of Johnstown. That was Bad's local station. And you had Channel 13, PBS. We had to have that because of our Sesame Street.
WQED.
WQED. Right. Which was the PBS station. Little kid, that was the fuzzy one. That was the one that didn't come in as clear as the other ones. And then as we got older, that's when you got, was it WWCP? Was the Fox? Is that what it was? I'm trying to remember. Channel 8 Fox. I'm not sure if I can remember the exact letters. Okay. But that one came later. And that was the other one that was a little bit fuzzy. What was the clearest of all the channels?
WJC and WTAE. Those were the two clearest.
Those were the two clearest ones. All right. And to me, WTAE was the most clear because, let's just say, it was a little bit higher end production, being Pittsburgh rather than Johnstown. No offense, bad. Yep. But it really was. So really, growing up, that was our news. That was it. I mean, you didn't have the internet. You had a local newspaper you would get news, when we were little, we got the newspaper once a week from the really local one. And then as we got older, our parents subscribed to one that came daily. But so really our regular news came from Don Cannon and Sally Wiggin.
Oh, no.
And Paul Long.
There you go. It started out. See, you again, probably you remember when Paul Long wasn't doing as much. When I remember, it was Don Cannon and Paul Long. Sally Wiggins was out in the field. Then she came in studio. And yeah.
And for weather, it was the great
Joe DiNardo.
Yep. Went down to 14 Springs.
Remember that? No. I love that.
Go ahead.
Remember that time him and Jack Lambert got in a fight down there at 14 Springs? Well, now there's only 7.
Yeah. Yep. So
Joe DiNardo.
Joe said it would.
Not could. Would.
And that was that was where we got our information as kids. Yeah. Now, the Steelers games were generally on. That was back when they were on NBC. right? They were on channel 6. But that wasn't where we were getting our local news from. So we would watch the games there, but listen to the sports stuff on WTA. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, it was home games. AFC was on NBC, so WJAC, and then we would catch, like, if they play an NFC team, that was on CBS, which was
KDKA. Yeah, and that was us. Now, when I say that we lived in the Pittsburgh sphere of influence, remember, we weren't even in Pennsylvania. For those of you out there that don't know, we were in Mountain Maryland, far western Maryland, as I would say. How often did we ever go to Pittsburgh? Think about that.
As kids, pretty much once a year.
Yeah, and I mean, when we would go to Kennywood.
Yeah, we go to Kennywood.
We would take a special trip and we would go to Kennywood once a year. I remember as a kid going to my first Pirates game at Three River Stadium. I remember because you remember more of the game because I wasn't all that old. We were on the third base side.
Yes, we were.
And I remember Johnny Ray was the shortstop.
No, second baseman.
Second baseman. One of those guys. And I remember because they had flashed on the screen that he had gone so many innings or whatever without an error. And as soon as they did, he had an error. And so it was a big deal when we went to Pittsburgh. I remember, school trips, kindergarten, you went to the zoo, the Pittsburgh Zoo. Only ever been there one time, but various different things. I remember going for a performing arts thing at whatever it was called in Pittsburgh. That was in 6th grade. I went to that, but just going to Pittsburgh was a really big deal. But yet Pittsburgh was in our living rooms every night. Yeah. So losing part of that, you look back with that, and like I say, Bill Hillgrove is still with us, and he's still does the games. I told you about meeting Bill Hillgrove, right? I don't remember if I did or not.
I don't know that you did.
This was in 2017. It was, I remember saying about this on the preview. So some of you may have heard this before, but we had gone to what was it called? It wasn't Fans Fest. It was whatever. It was the draft party. You went to it just over a year ago. That was at Heinz Field, because yes, at the time it was Heinz Field. And I remember I would get 2 free tickets as a season ticket holder, and we would just get they were cheap. And we would go, and I would take the kids. The first year I went, that's how I ended up with my Steelers superfan dad name. I talked about that on the preview. But in 2017, we were there and it rained. And I was there with our brother-in-law, our sister's husband, his 2 oldest kids, and I was there with my 2 oldest kids. And we had them all signed up to do stuff on the field. I'm pretty sure it was with Stefan Tuitt and Roosevelt Nix. That's who they were signed up with. But then it rained and they had to cancel those things. We went inside and I went up to where there was a place where only the season ticket holders could go. And I go up there and there's not very many people. And who's sitting at a table there talking? Bill Hillgrove and Craig Wolfley. And my brother-in-law and both boys were too scared to go up and talk to him, but the girls, they weren't. We went up and talked to him. They gave us signed autographed pictures, and that's when they told us we had just missed, within 5 minutes, the Steelers' first-round draft pick came out and spoke, and we weren't there for it and didn't get to hear one Trent Jordan Watt. So they kind of felt bad for us. So they probably talked to us for a good 10 minutes. Bill Hillgrove and Wolf, they were nice as could be. And like I say, Bill Hillgrove, that's still part of my childhood. But it was him and Stan. And I don't know about you, but to me, growing up and thinking of those kind of things is part of what makes me the fan that I am today.
Yeah, I know. It got me thinking more. There are a couple other guys that do sports around Pittsburgh that are still there that I remember from way back.
Mhm.
Say, back at that time. Guy Junker's still around,
Mhm.
and Albie
Albie
Oxenrider.
Oxenrider was the other one I was going to say.
Now you probably remember when he started, because remember they
Yes.
teased that for forever.
I do remember that.
Remember they had commercials that teased him. What's an Oxenrider?
Yep. So that actually, hearing those voices and seeing those highlights and just getting your other news and your other sports news. I mean, Pirates, that was back when the Pirates were good, and the Penguins and Steelers information. It was just, I mean, I was even at an age that I didn't even really understand everything I was listening, but that was just so familiar to me. And it's sad to lose Stan Savran this week at the age of 76 yesterday. But we're also going to talk about, other than just anything else you want to say about the media and anything else in that regard.
Well, it's funny because so of course I stopped by our parents' house this evening.
Okay.
As I do on most Tuesdays. So I was telling Dad what we were going to do for the show tonight. He thought it was pretty cool. And he and I got to talking. Of course, we were talking, first person he brings up, of course, was Myron Cope and how much he loved Cope. But with that, then, you probably, and I still loved hearing Myron Cope calling games with Bill Hillgrove. But see, I remember back when it was Myron Cope and Jack Fleming.
Yes. That was before my time.
Yeah. And honestly, I would put the two of them up against any duo for calling a football game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would even put them up against what I consider to be the gold standard. They were right there with that. And that was Madden and Summerall. Okay. And maybe the reason I put them right there with Madden and Summerall is because Jack Fleming was Summerall with actually a little bit more emotion, and Cope was Madden. And just listen to the two of them call a game. Sometimes I miss it. I go back and look up and find old clips of the two of them calling games sometimes just to listen to. It's amazing what that did. And, I can say that about the stuff for the Steelers, but some of the ones that I remember even more was stuff for the Pirates, because you probably, again, I don't know if you remember, because again, you'd have just been little, but you probably don't remember me and my little transistor radio going to sleep almost every night listening to Pirate games on the radio.
I remember talking about it more than it actually being there. I've always said, and it might be because I don't really remember. Well, I mean, we shared a room. Were we sharing a room at the time? Or was I so young? Okay, or I was going to say, I was so young, I was still in a crib. But
nope.
It's so funny that you say that, because would I remember that to say it myself? No. But as soon as you say that, I'm like, I remember that, because I've often said that I would rather listen to a baseball game on the radio than watch it live on TV. Well, live on TV. I mean, in stadium is completely different. But that's one that I actually enjoy more on the radio. And that might be why. Because of that growing up.
It could be. Because, you didn't get the Pirate games every night, but you could get them on the radio every night.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it came to Steelers stuff, I mean, even now, when I go back and watch highlights of the game, I want to hold on just a second. I always want to listen to the radio call rather than the TV national call. I want to hear the local radio call on the highlights. Go ahead.
Yes, Sherry Richards put out the gunner, Bob Prince, also Lanny Fratteri.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just good, was always good stuff. And they left no doubt about it. Right?
Yep. And then, of course, listening to Penguins games, that was an experience in itself as well. So
I know but I think about some of what we have had for sports commentators out of Pittsburgh, and we have been extremely, extremely lucky.
Yeah. And they feel, I mean, they become part of your fandom. Part of what that is. Like right here, I'm going to bring it up right now. Well, I missed it. Jeremiah Yoder says, I remember when Jack Fleming called the Immaculate Reception play. I remember that like it had just happened.
Oh, his Jack
Exactly.
Fleming's call. If you're going to watch the Immaculate Reception, because actually probably a month and a half ago was watching through some video of the Immaculate Reception, and you can hear it you can watch it with in two different ways. You can watch it with what was the television commentary, or you can watch it with the radio commentary,
which I have done recently.
And let me tell you what, Jack Fleming put the TV guys to shame. His call was so much better. It was his call was almost as immaculate as the reception.
Yeah, and I actually did a thing with Jeff and Brian a couple weeks ago where I told them a call of a famous Steelers play, and they had to tell me what play it was. And that one was where is it? I'm trying to find it here. Oh, there it was. The line that I have after it happens, after that, was where he said, I don't even know where he came from. Was his line from the Immaculate Reception.
Yep.
So yeah, that was they just shaped so much. And what would you and I do when we would go to a Steelers game more recently? We'd be on the Clipper on the way out, listening to the post game show from BTSC, now SCN. And then what we do as soon as we get to the car, because the show would be over. Or close to over.
DVE.
We're listening to DVE, going down the road, listening to who? Stan and Charlie.
Yep.
Because I couldn't dive into work and everything then nearly as quickly because I'm driving. So that's what I know.
I'm gonna miss Stan Savran on that drive home this year. It's gonna be tough not having him because he kind of become a part of the process. Yeah. Will they find someone to step in and probably do a really, really nice job? Yes. I didn't think Jack Fleming could be replaced. And let me tell you, Bill Hillgrove said that, he was taking a huge gamble coming over to replace Jack Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
After, but it worked. Okay. I worried what would happen after we lost Myron Cope. Did the broadcast change? Yeah, it changed. It changed some, when Tudge came in. Yeah. Now we lost Tunch.
Yeah.
Has it changed? Well, it's changed some since Wolfley came in. Actually, I think with Wolfley in there, it's closer to Cope, because his reactions are a lot more.
And he was on the sidelines anyway when Tunch was in the booth. It's just
Tunch was on the sidelines when when Myron Cope was still there.
Yeah.
And then came into the booth. So, will they figure it out and make it all work? Sure they will. But when we lose people, but to me it still hurts a little bit because it's just for a guy here that's just shy of 50, when I lost Stan Savran yesterday, it was just a little piece of my childhood.
Yes, exactly. That's what, and I knew we were going to talk about this for a while. If we just did this to talk about the news going on to start the show, and I really just wanted to give it the proper time. When we're going to go ahead and take a break. We come back, we're going to talk a little bit, about not just those, remembering those, who helped shape our Steelers fandom. Not just from that perspective, but also because we said, it's Father's Day and family and everything that we have. What I'm going to ask you all to do now that are with us live in the live chat You want to take a little bit. Some people have already done it further back. If you need to go back and copy it and do it, because I'm not going to be able to go back and go through them all again. But I'm going to ask you if you have a short story talking about either someone like a Stan Savran, like a Myron Cope, like a Bill Hillgrove, like a Tunch Ilkin, like your father, like your grandfather, like your uncle, like your aunt, like your mom, someone who really helped shape your Steelers fandom. I want you all to put them in there, and we're going to spend a little bit of time bringing those up. So if you're with us here on YouTube, get ready to do that if on YouTube or Facebook. And if you're with us on the audio, stick around after these messages to hear some pretty interesting stories. We'll be right back. All right, Steelers fans, we are diving into remembering those who helped shape our Steelers fandom. You know who really helped shape my Steelers fandom, Rich? The guy that I get to do a show with every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. I don't know that you realize that.
You know what? When you sent me this topic, I thought about this, yes, because by the time you got old enough to remember, I was so into Steelers that I'm sure there was an impact there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, and of course, you know, because our father, he's not as bad as the Twitter people out there, but we've talked in the past about how, you know, he would get frustrated. They're a bunch of bums. All they stink. All they're terrible. Blah 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 blah. And honestly, he fit right. I mean, our dad did not grow up in the area. He grew up in New England, and he kind of fit in with probably pretty good with the Yinger mentality. Yep. Now I don't put up with it anymore when he starts saying stuff, because when he says stuff that's wrong, I correct him, and he actually looks at me at knowing more about the Steelers than he does at this point. So it's kind of fun now, but I mean, still, it's very rare for me to have an extended conversation with my father that does not somehow involve the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, it's true. Same for me.
It always comes up
in the conversation.
And you live close to our parents, and you stop by the house, you know, multiple times in a week and everything, and yet that still happens. It's just kind of one of those things that connect us. When my wife gave me, well, it wasn't our first Christmas, it was our second Christmas, when she surprised me with 2 tickets to the game the next day, my first ever Steelers game. And it was the day after Christmas in 2004. I've talked about it before. Ben Roethlisberger's rookie season. They're playing the Ravens in Pittsburgh for the Steelers to lock up the AFC North, and I think that even locked up the 1 seed that year. And I was there. And everyone in the family was excited. I was talking to it felt like everyone was going along with me whenever that happened. You know, our sister was excited. You were excited. It's something that our whole family still bonds over. I mean, even our oldest sister, who's not a big sports person, still, man, sometimes she can't even stand to watch Steelers games. She gets nervous. And she'll be like, she'll send me a message, I can't watch this anymore. And she's a fan. It's just something that connects us.
It is, and has always connected us as a family. And you know, to me, with the family, we haven't connected, but nobody had the influence on me that I'd say in the family more than what we were talking about in the first half of the show, which was more on the media side of things. Mm-hmm. I will say this now: our grandfather influenced me when it came to the Pirates.
Yes,
because he was a big Pirates fan, and he loved baseball.
Yes,
baseball was his sport. He wasn't a big football person. You know, we'd go over to his house. And he wouldn't, you know, you didn't often go over to Pap's house on a Sunday and there'd be football on unless we were there. He'd turn it on because we were there. Mm-hmm. But you could go over in the summertime in the afternoon and he'd have the Cubs on, or mm-hmm.
just because it was on.
Just because it was
He
on.
had a satellite dish. He had WGN.
That's right.
Or the Braves on TBS.
Or the Braves on TBS back in the day. That's right.
But no, but he also got the Pirates games too. That if you're there sometimes.
So he influenced me when it came to Pirates and my fandom that was there. But I'd love to say it was our dad. Our dad had some influence because I'll still, when I get mad, I'll just look at Kyle and they're a bunch of bums. I'll throw Dad's line out there, but but actually, I look at it now. You and I are more rabid fans now than he ever was.
Oh yes, absolutely, and that's what's really cool, and we can really play off each other here. Hey, I'm going to start having to bring some of these up. Like, there's one early on from Wes. He said, "New generations don't replace the old ones; they just create new memories in history."
And Wes, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It's just going to be. It's not going to be. It's just not going to be the same. It's going to be different. Right? It's going to be different. Doesn't mean it's going to be bad. It's probably going to be good. It'd be really good. Might even be better. But it's just going to be different.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad he put this back in here because I saw it early on, and
go ahead.
And I didn't want to have to scroll back to try to find it. But Andrew Wilbar, fantasy football and NFL draft is his name under YouTube. But this is BTSC's Andrew Wilbar. We like to bust on Andrew sometimes, but we love him to death. He says, "My grandpa is the one who brought the Steelers fandom to our family. Born in Pittsburgh, lived with us for about a year when I was 5, had Parkinson's disease, and his eyesight was bad. So I had to read to him the newspaper. He would always have me read the sports stats, especially the Pirates during baseball season. He later got me into football, and it became my first love rather than baseball." Okay. And then he said one other thing, was a true believer in defense, wins championships, kind of rubbed off on me.
Yep.
So here we go. Afton has one that says, "The first Steelers game I remember watching were when my mom's dad's visit from Pittsburgh." So in other words, someone visited from Pittsburgh and said, "Hey, turn on the Steelers game." That's pretty.
Can't miss it.
Okay, it's funny because Gavin, this is a new name. Oh, he told us earlier. He said a different show, and he said earlier tonight who this is. Was it? Oh, I can't remember his. I would know it to see it. It's a new screen name for him. But he says, "Were the Patriots not a thing when your dad was a kid?" Yeah, they were. Yeah, he was a Patriots fan. But guess what? We got every Steelers game. And remember, we almost got banished.
He wasn't. Yeah, I know.
During the Bears Patriots Super Bowl, because we all loved the refrigerator Perry and wanted the Bears to win as kids. He did not. He didn't like that.
Sorry, Afton threw something up there. Was Gavin? Was he great 103?
Yes, he was great 103. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Afton.
Yeah.
The other thing was, my dad kind of followed the page. He followed the Patriots from up there, but the Patriots were awful. He was and still is a big Boston Bruins and Boston Celtics fan.
Yes.
But he's never been huge on the Patriots.
And honestly, this is an interesting story. Our parents did not watch the Steelers' first Super Bowl victory. They kind of did on the Jumbotron, because they were given tickets, because people wanted to watch the Super Bowl, to go watch the Penguins and Bruins play in Pittsburgh. And they were there. And then they were showing the game on the Jumbotron then too. So especially the end of the game. So that's because that was kind of my mom still tells the story that when my parents were first married and they were living in Terre Haute, West Virginia, that on Sunday night they would go to bed early to turn on the radio to listen to the AM station WBZ Boston and listen to the Bruins play.
See, you were always asleep. See, you forget that we used to do that same thing when you were a kid. When when Mom and Dad would go to prayer meeting on Wednesdays in McHenry,
Mm-hmm.
we would drive home. Dad would turn WBZ on, whether it would be Red Sox.
It wouldn't matter what it is. You know what? I would still
or even their talk show, because you could only get it
at night because it's
at night.
Yeah. Yep.
Still get it at night. I still turn it on down here once in a while.
I still have a memory of our dad up in their bedroom. This was I was older because it wasn't the big room that you and I then shared later. It was the other room, listening to the Steelers on a Sunday night because the game was on TNT and we only had we didn't have cable, so he was listening to it on the radio. I remember that as well. Russ has a little story. He says, I became a Christian and got saved because of Tunch and Wolf 30 years ago. Just hearing the impact God made in their lives, and thought I need that would always be grateful to them. That changed my life. Yeah. From being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Here we go. This is from Pittsburgh Today, 86. Said, Lynn Swan made me try football. I could run directly and catch very well. Or directly, what am I saying? I can't read right now. Decently and catch very well. The writing is much smaller than it used to be. Lambert somehow got me into boxing. Maybe him dumping Cliff Harris was the impetus, because we know that Cliff Harris is still a punk.
He's still a punk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So here, Jennifer says that Mike Webster's sister lived next to my grandparents. When he came home to visit, he played football with us in the yard and brought us Steelers gear. I was hooked. That's a fantastic story. That's a great story.
Yeah. Even if you had no idea what professional football was, just the fact that this guy that you knew played professional football would come over and throw the ball around and bring you gear, that would be enough that I'd become a football fan if I wasn't one.
Yeah. Okay. Sherry Richards says, watching games with my dad and also Rocky after reading the book Fighting Back and watching the movie. This is what shapes our fandom. Okay. Here, this is Mr. Woodside. Says 1978. My Aunt Sonia, R.I.P. 1998, favorite aunt growing up. 98 is when we lost our granddad, who you talked about with the Pirates. Says she introduced me to football and the Steelers. First game I watched was Steelers Cowboys Super Bowl in January 1979. Entire extended family were Steelers fans. Yeah, it's to me part of what makes our fandom is also the memory of those kind of experience. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It just, again, it I want to say it imprints on you.
Yeah.
It's not just impactful. It imprints on you. It is there. It is probably never going anywhere.
Yeah. Here's one. We'll have to do a mild correction because of something. It says, I'm a Steelers fan because of my dad. The first Super Bowl I saw was against Dallas, and they said 77, but the Steelers weren't in the Super Bowl in 77. Says, but I live in the Bay Area, California. When you go back that long, I mess up the years all the time too. But yeah, it was against the Cowboys. And Brian Brown says, my first year as a Steelers fan, they won Super Bowl 13. Okay. Something that said right before that was the Steelers defense was scary and unstoppable. The offense was clicking on all cylinders, and Jack Lambert really did look like Count Dracula in cleats. This is Russ. It's just funny because I think I remember hearing Russ before. Says, I'm so glad for times I called in post game and talked to Stan and Charlie. They were always so nice. I sometimes even now, if I'm going to bed, I'll try to catch SNR on my phone because they'll replay the post game show sometimes just over and over, and or a replay of the game, and I'll just turn it on and just see what's on just to especially after a win, to take in as much Steelers stuff as I can.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. This is Kathy Forrid. Already heard from Afton. Says, I'm delighted to have contributed to the fandom of my daughter. makes Sunday so much more fun because we already heard from her daughter Afton, and there's Kathy chiming in. So that's really, really great stuff there. Whoa. I just had my live chat. Okay, it jumped on me pretty bad. Here we go. Thomas Riley. I wanted to get this one. Says, my uncle got me loving the Steelers early. I was his remote control during Steelers season. My job was to turn the other game during the commercial. Yep. Been there many times. You're preaching to the choir there, Thomas.
They're bums. Turn it to channel 2. Right? How many times did Dad say that? Then we'd miss parts of the Steelers game and be mad.
Yeah. See, and that's why I introduced my father to Red Zone. The reason I introduced my father to the Red Zone channel is I'm like, Dad, you don't have to try to flip the channels and catch the best parts, because you know what you always did? You always missed the best parts.
Yep.
How many really great plays did we watch on replay because our dad was flipping the channel? So I'm like, watch Red Zone. They'll just show you all the good stuff. You don't have to worry about timing it right. So Wes has a little story here. He says, it isn't really a shaping my fandom story, but in Sean Sweezum's last season, as the day was ending, he had a 20-minute conversation with my son, who at the time was 4 years old. I mean, that kind of really locks in stuff with your fandom. Lifelong fan 07 said, my dad and I went to the Raiders game when Cordell Stewart was the QB, and we beat them that day in Oakland. I wore all my Steelers gear. Love it. Thomas Eads the fourth says my dad got me into Steelers from birth. He then I did the same with my son. Okay. Just some really, really good stuff here. Okay. Jeremiah Yoder said my Steelers fandom started with Joe Green. The way he led the greatest defense of all time. He dominated the defensive game. 1972 is when I fell in love with our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. I mean, some people it's because it's where they live. Some people it wasn't. With us, it was, I mean, if we didn't live where we did, do you think we would have ended up Steelers fans? There's a good chance we wouldn't have, because that we lived in the sphere of influence. I mean, our dad wasn't a Steelers fan whenever he married our mom, but he became one.
Right. But mom's influence wasn't Steelers. It was Pirates because of our granddad.
Yeah.
Mom didn't talk a lot about the football, but she'd been doing baseball for a while. So it's hard to tell.
Yeah, see, and we got to remember, we aren't just all old fogies here. You keep telling me that I'm not old enough to remember, but here we go. Here's Gavin coming in. This was, great 103, right? Yes. Said, I got into the Steelers during the Killer Bee era. Antonio Brown was my favorite player, but his downfall made me dislike him. I hope Pickens can fill that void. Also, yeah, he said great 103. Yeah. Did I say 08? 03, yeah. That we do have we have a lot of listeners, and I mean even people on staff with SCN, that last year was real, other than most of 2019 was their last, the first season they can remember that it wasn't Ben Roethlisberger, because they weren't old enough to remember what was going on before Big Ben. So remember that, but then I get people on here that talk about the 70s Steelers. I'm like, man, I really wish I could have, been a part of that, but I'm not old enough for that. So, but that's the great thing about the Steelers. It's cross-generational, even if it's not your family, it's, the old generation, young generation. I'm not going to go naming all of those, whatever they are, Gen X and stuff like that, but they can still all be connected by the Steelers. Okay. Sorry, I just got to bring this up. Brian Brown said, I remember a time when I hated the Houston Oilers as much as I do the Ravens and Bengals. Warren Moon can kiss it. Yeah. And then just some people more reminiscing.
Yeah.
Here's one I just got to say. Mark Lancaster said, love the way Myron Cope described the freak size of Eric Green. It was hilarious. Yeah, and that's now Darnell Washington is what people were talking about. Thomas Eads had another one. Said my dad had old VHS tapes of Steelers in the 70s game, and we watched them.
There you go.
Yeah,
and we watched them.
Yeah, and we watched them. Sorry. Whoa, I just jumped again. I don't know if I missed anything or not. Okay. I'm trying to get back to where I was because everything. Okay, I found it. Here we go. I hope I didn't miss anything in there. Okay, got to bring this up because Sherry says, "Let's be honest, we have the best ownership in sports. They truly care about the fans and want to win." R.I.P. Chief and Dan. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you're sad when the Rooneys hold a special place in your heart just from what they gave the city of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But they're not someone that you heard every day, like what we were talking about at the beginning with Myron Cope and Stan Savran and those. Let's see. Am I missing it here?
Oh, what? On down through here?
Yeah, here's one. Ron Schultz
this is a good one.
Says, lived in Seattle for 15 years. We had the Steelers Breakfast Club. Your real hometown was your name. All right. That's pretty
I
good.
like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hold on. I was wanting to see.
Here we go. Brian Brown told another story. He said, the first playoff game I ever watched the Steelers lose, I got grounded 2 weeks for breaking the TV with an ashtray. The question is, whose ashtray was it? And then Wes clarified that with Swisham, that was at training camp. This is what he wanted to say. Okay, and because Thomas Eads wanted to came in to say, he says, I grew up and live in Virginia. My dad became a Steelers fan when Chuck Noll became the coach. And Andrew confirmed what I said. He's like, last time Ben was the QB, I was 1.
Crazy.
I know. Yeah.
Dang, Andrew. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I got to go see Bradshaw play in person. So,
Yep. Okay. Here we go. John Butte, I assume. Says my first Pittsburgh team was the Penguins. I was born 1990, so my whole life the Penguins have been amazing, and I became a Steelers fan later. Started following the team because of Jerome the Bus. So yeah, some really good stuff. Is there any more? It just skipped on me again. With stuff I didn't want to really skim out on everyone, but we are running out of time here. You know what? This was our big question. And we basically used it for the entire second half of the show. Unless you had something else you wanted to do, Rich.
No.
We wanted to give you all the opportunity to basically take half the show and talk about those things and those people who shaped your Steelers fandom. You know what? I think Stan would have been proud of such a thing.
I'm going to bring this one up. From Afton. Okay.
Yes.
Afton said, I love Shannon's White story about his family's connection to the Rooneys and why they respected them so much.
In case you're wondering what she's talking about, that was on, he was the Monday morning conversation, not yesterday, but the week before on Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride on our audio only platform. If you're wondering what we're talking about, just look anywhere where you find podcasts. If you're with us here live now, or watching this on YouTube or Facebook at another time. If you're listening to us in podcast form, then you've already found us. But anywhere you can get podcasts, just search for Steelers or Steel Curtain Network. We're there. We have a whole there's so much more than what we have on that goes out on YouTube. And yeah, what was the date for that? That would have been the 5th, Monday, June 5th. That was Let's Ride and Jeff Hartman's conversation with Shannon White. And he talked about that. That was really good there.
Real quick, I'm going to bring another one up. Wes just said, hey, how many owners do you know that would walk down the street and converse with fans every day on their way to work? R.I.P. Dan. And that was, but believe it or not, that influence I think came from art. the Rooney family, for all I know, I think they still own a place down here on Deep Creek Lake. And Dan would come down, and you would, he would go to church locally here when they would come down. He would go to the, to the grocery stores, the pharmacies, and when he went in and you just, if you just noticed it was him and said, "Oh, hey, hello, Mr. Rooney," blah, blah, he would just talk to you like friendly, like you would expect,
like anyone else you would talk to, that you would run into at church or the supermarket or anything like that. Yeah,
exactly. And to me, that was who Dan Rooney was, but I think that was shaped by Art Rooney. But then they ran, I say they ran, as they still try to run their organization with that same feeling. And I think that's why, part of the reason I feel like we're lucky as Steeler fans. So
yes, we are. And sometimes I say we're spoiled, and there's sometimes it's frustrating because people just, it's a whole different part of your fandom when you connect to it in a different way and connect to the people and to the memories that you have. And yes, we could talk about, the Steelers haven't been to a Super Bowl in X number of seasons, and they haven't won a playoff game in X number of seasons and everything else. But you know what? That's never going to shake my fandom, because so much of the things that we were talking about today and those memories that we are still creating each and every season is what makes this who we are as Steelers fans, and what makes this the best franchise in professional sports. With that, make sure you're checking out our podcast. Rich, is there anything more you would like to say here to close us out?
It's actually been fun. Actually, one thing I do want to point out. Hey, Russ, it's good to see you back in the live chat.
Yeah.
Put in there earlier that he'd had some complications from surgery and hadn't been here in a while. Russ, good to see you tonight. Glad you're back in. And it's people like that are listening to the show and are out here in our live chat that's what makes being a Steeler fan so interesting. We constantly talk about our Steeler family. It's kind of because what we are, like, we care about each other. Even though all I do is talk to these people over on the screen, but they're family. And when one of them calls you up or needs a favor or anything like that, you do what you can to help them out. He hasn't been in the live chat for a while because of his work schedule. And that's Thaddeus Kennedy. He and I have been able to connect up some. And actually, I was able to, at the beginning when COVID first hit, I was able to stop in and help out with his wife's granddad for a while. Now, during the pandemic, he passed away, not from COVID, thank goodness, just naturally, because he was in his 90s. Mm-hmm. But, to me, then it was when they were like, "Oh, hey, he's snowed in and he's to do this." I got it. I'm over to take care. Showed him out. Why? Steeler fan. Talk to this man. He was 96 years old. We were talking Steelers because I knew he was from Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And it's great. It's part of what makes being a Steeler fan so great. Look, this was nice to come in and be able to do, especially with the passing of Stan Savran. But this was a little more somber, a little more reflective. You know what? That's good. I hope you all enjoyed that, because I want to get back in next week into excitement. I want to start looking
for 2023
looking forward into the excitement we're going to continue to get as Steelers fans in 2023. Can't wait.
Can't wait.